Eric Wall.
Peter McCormack.
How are you?
Feeling swell, thank you.
Did you ever think you would end up in Bedford?
I've been expecting to end up here for years now.
For years?
For years, ever since you had that.
Ever since I saw you dancing so fabulously in Norway, owning the dance floor, pre-TikTok.
You hadn't even seen me get started there. That was just the warm-up.
If we'd have had TikTok back then, you would have been... Connor, who's that girl that Scarlett follows on TikTok? You would be the Charlie D'Amelio. You're
bringing up, a pain of mine, which is that I was too late for the TikTok generation. And I think TikTok would be the medium where I would have truly excelled. And now I'm confined to be this annoying person in crypto Twitter where I could have been a TikTok star.
You're not annoying.
Didn't you try TikTok for a while?
Yeah, I did. I did a little bit. But I mean, it's...
What?
Have you not seen Eric's TikToks?
No.
Well, should I pull one up?
Do you mean
what is he dancing?
Do you mean the AI ones or just the ones where I'm being goofy and dancing around?
I thought you did some like crypto ones.
Yeah, I did. Sometimes there are things that happen in the cryptoverse that are emotional, like Suzu falling from grace.
Just do it.
So I made a compilation of his images, and I put a soundtrack, and I made some rain, just to express how sad it was. I mean, there are particular moments that have happened in crypto that you want to feel all the emotions tied to those events. So I'll make some, like, for example, when I got ousted by the maxis, that was emotional for me.
You got ousted?
I got ousted in 2019.
I think I got ousted after my first podcast episode.
Yeah. Because it was bad.
I don't know. I've never fit in.
Yeah,
well, you're not annoying on Twitter. You're annoying getting a fucking flight. But you're not annoying on Twitter.
Not annoying on Twitter. You've personally unfollowed me a bunch of times.
Yeah, you were being a dick. Yeah, a couple of times. Sometimes you have to have a break. We talked about this in Lugana.
Yeah, we did.
We did talk about this. But look, it's great to have a shitcoiner on the show. Usually it's just Bitcoin people or macro people. Occasionally we invite a shitcoiner on the show.
How many shitcoiners do you tend to have?
Less than one a month, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like we have people we have Bitcoiners who shitcoin occasionally. We have Bitcoiners, macro, Bitcoiners who shitcoin, and then we have like real shitcoiners like yourself sometimes. Lane Rettick we have back.
Yeah.
We like Lane, so Lane comes on.
Eric Voorhees has been on a few times.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
shitcoiners who are actual Bitcoiners as well. We don't mind them.
I'm happy to be your monthly shitcoiner for the month.
Okay, let's talk about HEX.
Let's talk about HEX.
I heard it's a scam. I'm not sure. Richard Heart seems like a good guy. He seems like he's got great taste in fashion. Seems like he really cares about the financial system and the problems within the banking sector and the Fed. And he seems like he's designed a cryptocurrency that can fix this. I've heard this is a rumor.
Do you know there's a book called like the 48 Laws of Attraction?
I thought there was only 7.
Apparently there's 48.
Okay.
And in chapter 27 of this book, it outlines the steps that you undertake in order to form a cult. And it includes many particular things that are heavily integrated with exactly how HEX operates. So for example, in the 48 Laws of Attraction, there's sort of a guy that talks about, well, you should require sacrifices from your community. And that's like a perfect mirroring to what Richard is doing with this pulse chain.
Oh, because they have the sacrifice.
Yeah, they have sacrifice phases for pulse chain, for pulse X. Actually, if you read the thing, it's almost letter by letter. And if you read the chapter, it's like it's actually textbook what he's doing. And he has tweeted the name of this book. He says, I've read 5 books in my life or something like that. And these are the ones that I highly recommend.
I want to know what all 5 are.
Some of them is like, what's his name? Yuval, the Sapiens. The Sapiens book. And then another one is the 48 Laws of Attraction. I think that's the name of the book anyway. Okay. And this one is just how to create a cult. And
so are you saying, hold on, are you saying Hex is a cult?
I'm saying that this is one of the few books that Richard has read, and he has incorporated every element of a specific chapter in that book that mirrors exactly what he's doing with Hex.
What are the other parts of that chapter?
I can't bring it up from the top of my head.
Danny, can you find chapter 27 of the 48 Laws of Attraction? I mean, you're saying this might be a cult.
It is a cult. It is a cult.
Have you done any research into whether all the hexagons are real people or bots or what?
I'm pretty sure they are real people. I mean, many of them have YouTube stream. Like many of them are streamers. I've interacted with them in DMs, a bunch of them. They've invited me to, events and parties, and they show me pictures of when they're hunting in the forest. And it's like, hey, Eric, I'm because they consider me their friend at this point. We've been hating on each other for such a long time that it's sort of turned into this thing. Well, at the end of the day, you are a person that I know pretty well, and you seem to understand some things in the crypto space. I want to sort of be your friend, and can you help me understand things that I don't understand in crypto?
So keep your enemies closer.
Chapter 27 is play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. And it provides examples from history of leaders who have used this tactic to gain power and control over their followers.
Did you just ask ChatGPT to find the answer for you?
I just said what's
That's
in chapter
fucking
27.
great. I mean, that's really cool.
This is one of the things that, I've tweeted a lot about everything about Hex, but this is the one thing that I've sort of kept. This is like my magnum opus of
Your
scoring
consistent
Richard.
thread.
This is the one thing that, if I actually pull out the information from that chapter, it would just expose the whole shtick, the whole scheme, in such a way that I'm sort of hesitant. Like, do I want to? Because this would be the end.
Well, do you have a duty to the world to do that? Do you feel a responsibility to protect people from this? Because as a journalist, I would say you do so.
I'm wondering if it will backfire.
In what way? More attention to him, or
I think
negative for you?
From the last couple of months, it's looking like he's already collapsing the whole thing on his own.
Okay. Can you ask ChatGPT about Richard Heart? Say, how did Richard Heart create the Hex cult?
I don't know if it has data that old.
It has until September 2021.
It says he's a controversial figure in cryptocurrency. No, it doesn't really say anything. Offered large rewards to early adopters. Creating a sense of community, exactly what you said.
Cult.
Encouraging loyalty. Yeah, that's about it.
It seems so obvious to me from the outside that he's full of shit.
Interestingly, the last sentence is, ultimately, whether or not Hex can be considered a cult is a matter of debate. Even ChatGPT knows.
We didn't ask a cult, did we?
No, I said, oh yeah, no, I did. I fed it that.
So, okay. Do we know how much money he's made from it? Do we have ideas? Do we think it's millions, tens, or hundreds?
Yeah, it's hard to tell because of the fact that when you have an ICO running, you can recycle funds in and out. But from the Pulse chain sacrifice and the Pulse X sacrifice, for those particular wallets, you can actually look on Etherscan like how much money are in those wallets right now. And we're talking about like slightly less than $1 billion. There are $400 million in one of them and another like $300 million in another one. And then we have to think about, well, how much money did he make from the initial one, HEX?
And are those wallets essentially his, and he owns that?
Oh yeah,
ETH?
oh yeah.
So he is now.
And some of them are in stable coins also. So they're actually like stable coins for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
So he's either worth hundreds of millions or maybe a billionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impressive, even if it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a little story about Richard Heart? He tried to troll me, and it was fucking brilliant what he did. I actually respect this. So when I was trying to buy Bedford Town Football Club, he reached out to them when he heard about it and tried to buy a sponsorship at the stadium and call it the HEX.com Stadium. So if I bought Bedford Town, I would have had to, because I would have been contractually obliged to have my team playing in the HEX.com Stadium. It was so funny. So that when we were in negotiations, the owner told me, he said, "Have you heard of a Richard Heart?" I was like, "Yeah." Why? He said, "Well, he's offered us, it was a nominal amount. It was a small amount, to be honest. If he'd have offered more, he'd have got it." He said, he's offered to sponsor the stadium and take the naming rights. I was like, that's funny.
That is funny.
That is funny. Okay. So when you say it's all collapsing, does it really matter to him? He's that fabulously wealthy.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't think that. Richard has said it himself that, in terms of how much you can upgrade your lifestyle, there's diminishing returns. So he has the best stereo, like he has the best sound, he has the best TV, he has the best things. So how much happier is he gonna become from another 100 million? The thing that he cares about is the adoration from the people around him. Mm-hmm. He thinks that he is a god, and if he's unable to launch these projects that he's told everyone that he's trying to make successful, if he can't do that, then this entire cult that he's created is going to. It was actually close to happening a couple of months ago when the HEX price was in the gutter and the project that he had promised would launch years ago was still just causing delays after delays and excuses. That for him is like way more material than losing $100 million, because it makes him understand that he is not, a god. He can't do the things that he thinks that he can do. So it diminishes him. It makes him feel smaller.
So it's becoming irrelevant.
It's just an ego thing at this point. I mean, he wants to become someone that is admired and someone that is omnipotent, omniscient, knows everything, knows when the peak of the Bitcoin price is, knows when the dip is. He wants people to follow him like a cult, because if you get a cult-like following, your powers go beyond what any ordinary person do, even beyond what a rich person do. A rich person that doesn't have a cult following, their life is way less interesting than a person who has a cult, who believes that what that person says is a divine, derived from something holy. And that's sort of the thing that he's had, that there are actual people that think of him as a god.
But he must know that those people think of him of that. It's essentially like buying friends. It's not truly authentically earned respect. It's people who believe that he's going to make them wealthy, and therefore that's like internally he knows like he doesn't have any genuine authentic respect from anyone with any credibility.
I think that there are a lot of Hexicans that will respect him almost no matter what at this point. If something bad happens, they will blame it on the SEC, on the interest rates, on whatever. But he's already gotten a sizable community that thinks of him as a divine being.
Yeah, but it's similar not the same, but similar to how a lot of people think of somebody like an Adam Back. But there's some credibility behind why people respect and like Adam Back. His inventions, his contributions, his takes, whether or not you agree. Like, he has authentically earned the respect of a large group of people. I think Richard would know there's no authenticity behind it. I think he's Trump-like in some ways, in that if someone criticizes Adam back, it's like water off a duck's back. It just bounces off him. He doesn't care. Anyone who criticizes Richard Heart becomes a mortal enemy for them. Like, I don't think I've even spoken about him, for a couple of years since I last did that video.
Yeah, definitely not on.
He still, like, fucking doesn't, he still goes after me. It's like 2 years later. It's like, move on, man. But so I think there's like, it's almost like Trump. You know how Trump could not take any criticism.
It's because they're a fringe community and they need bigger adversaries to sort of give them relevance again. So they're always trying to rope in. So, for example, I left the HEX community.
Left it? You were in it? Was that a slip of the tongue? Were you a Hexagon?
I got sucked in. No, I wasn't a Hexagon, but I got sucked into their, psychosis. I was in there.
What?
I took a role. I saw this cult, this movement in complete disarray, and many of them were scared, many of them were confused, and they were desperately trying to interpret the word of Richard, because their entire financial future depended on what Richard says, and he was speaking in very vague language. And I sort of took the role of explaining what Richard is saying. Because he's talking about, he was trying to fork Ethereum. And when you're forking Ethereum, this goes into, what's an Aragon climb? What's a sync stage? And all these complicated things that Hexagons don't understand. So I took the role of basically trash talking Richard, but at the same time also explaining what were the technical difficulties that he was facing. And because of that, the HEX community started to rely on me. And some of them started also to see the points that I've been making all along, that it's much harder to launch a layer 1 blockchain than it is to just create a smart contract on top of Ethereum, which HEX is. So they started to rely on me, and we had some sort of symbiotic relationship where they loved to hate me, and I loved being hated by them. But I became sort of a part of the HEX community, and there was a lot of banter, and it just got to the point, where my cryptocurrency friends like Udi and Hasu and other people were like, Eric, you're spending way too much time.
Did you have an intervention?
I had an intervention.
You were in a cult.
I wasn't in a cult. Well, I was I was spending a lot of time with the cult because I thought that I was on an anthropological mission of, what do you call it? Like a scribe, a narrator.
A mission from God.
Yeah, I was there with the purpose of, someone needs to tell the story of all the madness and insanity that goes on inside that cult, because one day there's going to be a movie made from that. And there were Netflix level documentary teams that were actually flying into Portugal to allow me to speak about what's going on there. And I thought that I was bringing a much needed color to this. This is one of the largest financial schemes in financial history. This is one of the longest running, financial psychosis that has ever happened, sort of in the world. And I was the one with the most intel, so I thought of it as my responsibility to sort of just tell the story and keep track of what people are saying and what is going wrong and what is actually happening. Because I was the only one that understood it. And I thought that I could do it from an unbiased perspective, and I thought that I had a responsibility to bring to the world this story. And I spent an insane amount of time doing that, and that's when my friends sort of came and said, "Eric, you got to stop with this HEX thing." And I was telling them, "Look, this film team is coming in 2 weeks from now. Like, there's going to be a documentary, and I'm going to be the main antagonist. And they're like, Eric, it's gone too far. You have to step away. You have so much potential, and there are other things that you could focus your energy on." And so I left. I unfollowed all the Hexagon people. I stopped engaging with them. I didn't post in their threads. I didn't argue with them anymore. And for a while, I was slightly depressed because I had a very big personality in the HEX community. Like, I was in the world of HEX, there's Richard Heart, and then there's Eric Wall. Like, those were the Christ and the Antichrist. And I enjoyed.
Which one were you?
I was the Antichrist. Yeah, and I enjoyed that because it got me into places and it got me into things that made my life more exciting, because I would never have, that doesn't happen to me in regular life. Like, being that big of an antagonist comes with special perks to it.
Like what?
Well, there are people within the HEX community where their faith is sort of faltering, and then they go to the Antichrist, and then the Antichrist is now their new god that they start to listen to instead.
So you had a spin-off cult?
Yeah, so sort of within like...
This is fucking mental.
It was mental, but it was insanely entertaining at the same time. And I thought that when this thing eventually collapses, the entire HEX cult would eventually just... I could take them, like they would now understand that what Eric has been saying is the truth,
and they would adore you.
It's not necessarily adoration that I was looking for, but I thought that this is a big community that I could now steer for a better purpose, and that would
Eric coin.
I wasn't gonna drop a new cryptocurrency. Well, maybe the Erica Simp DAO. Do you remember that?
No.
Well, I had like a female alter ego. I was gonna create.
Oh, Erica.
Yeah, I was gonna create like.
She's kind of hot.
She is kind of hot. So I mean, the things that happened in the HEX community was just on a different scale, on a different level, from a completely different universe from anything that I've been used to, and I was excited about that. So when I left, I was like, okay, now I'm just regular, non-Antichrist Eric, just regular Eric, and I got a little bit depressed for a couple of weeks. I was like, I told my partner that I think I'm heading into depression, because I left all these HEX channels. I just unfollowed. It was like a big part of my personality that I eliminated, and that what happened a month after that, almost immediately after that, was that I started to work on my own projects. Like, I actually started to work on projects that. Bitcoin projects. I was actually starting to do the things that I've been, putting off, and focusing my time on that. And
no wild parties, no adoration.
No, but I got into things like I started 2 companies, like passion projects of mine that are going tremendously well. I got into AI animation. So I was making AI animation where I was talking about philosophical things, and they became like the most watched videos on particular subreddits, and I was getting a different kind of message out, things that I wanted to say for years. And I was flying out of my bed each morning because I was so excited about the things that I was working on.
But did you miss the HEX people?
No, I mean, no, I realized at that point that what my friends had been saying, that, yeah, I mean, you're getting some things out of, being this HEX figure, but there's so much more that you're missing out on. And that was true. So once I stopped with the HEX nonsense, there was another world for me that I had been missing out on. And now I'm like, this year, it's been like my rebirth year, where I can actually focus on things that isn't, being a part of a crazy cult.
This is makes me think of Point Break.
I've not seen Point Break.
You've not seen Point Break? What the fuck? Oh man, you gotta see that film where Keanu Reeves goes undercover with the police. Undercover for the police to infiltrate a gang, and starts to get to the moment where you feel like he likes being in the gang. And then at the end of this gang, this is like your Point Break. I didn't realize we were going to talk about all this. Asking about HEX was meant to be more of a joke. The fuck, man? That's wild.
Yeah.
What is Pulse Chain like their Ethereum?
Yeah, so Pulse Chain was supposed to be, what he promised was that he was going to fork Ethereum, but it was going to be faster, and it was going to have proof of stake before Ethereum had it.
Yeah.
So it was going to launch before, and it was going to have more scalability, and it would have faster blocks and all that. In the end, they weren't able to launch Pulse Chain before Ethereum. Now it's launched after Ethereum, and
it has launched.
Oh, sorry, there's a testnet for it.
Does it work?
Barely. So the window up, they tried to get into this when the fees in Ethereum were extremely high. That's when they started. Now the Ethereum fees are low, and now they have this clone of Ethereum, which there isn't really a purpose for anymore. And they've also, instead of making Ethereum better, which was the thing that they were going to do by making blocks faster, now it's just a carbon copy. Like now he says, we don't want to change the fantastic math that the Ethereum people have done because they've already solved it. So now it's just a complete copy paste of Ethereum.
But when Ethereum makes upgrades, do they have to upgrade the same? How does that all work?
Yeah, so this is pretty funny. So when a couple of months ago he was asked, so in Pulse Chain, are you going to be able to withdraw your Pulse tokens when you stake them? And Richard was like, yeah, I think that we've solved that. And then we spoke to his devs a couple of days later, and they're like, no, we're actually just copy pasting Ethereum, so we have to wait for them to make withdrawals possible before they're going to be possible in our project. And at that point, that's actually when I started to call. I've been very careful with calling HEX a scam.
Oh, I would never do that.
Yeah, I mean, I choose that word very, specifically when I call something a scam. So I haven't called it a scam. I've called it like a transparently slanted game that goes to enrich a particular party. But if it's transparent, people know about it, it's not a scam, in my opinion. But now when it's like the promises that he had made about Pulse Chain, and then seeing what he's delivering in reality, and also seeing how little he knows about what he's actually delivering, that's when I'm at the point where, this is actually, like, if the way, he said there's going to be tons of bugs in Ethereum. It's going to be unusable. They don't know how to build this. We're going to do Pulse Chain, and it's going to be much better. And now he's just copy pasting Ethereum, and it's not better at all. It just comes out later, and all the upgrades that they are getting is downstream from Ethereum. And they raised $1 billion for this. That is a scam. That is a scam.
What's Pulse X?
Pulse X is like a Uniswap application that runs on top of Pulse Chain. So the same way that Ethereum has Uniswap. So that's just one application, also raised $1 billion.
Separate $1 billion?
A separate $1 billion.
And is that a separate $1 billion for Richard?
For Richard.
So he probably has multiple billions of dollars.
So actually, a part of those donation amounts were done in HEX. And he's promised not to sell that part. But if you actually look at the stable coin and the Ethereum parts, if you combine both of them, that it's like $1 billion in total. But yeah, people sacrificed. They sacrificed $1.8 billion.
So when you say donations, that's like the HEX community sacrificing their HEX to go into this new Pulse Chain.
Yeah, they say that they're sacrificing their money for freedom of speech, and that they're not expecting anything in return. Even though
it passes the Howey test, or supposedly passes the Howey. Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a website that says if you deposit, if you sacrifice this amount of money, you get these many points, and these points translates into how many tokens that you get.
Points
so you are actually getting an amount of tokens, and the value of these tokens are completely dependent on whether or not Richard Heart launches Pulse Chain or not. So it is 100%
obviously, yeah,
security. And they're even getting subpoenas at this point. The funniest thing,
I've seen that.
They're getting subpoenas, and all these HEX influencers who are like, you should have bought HEX when I did, because now I'm like infinitely rich. They are out on Twitter now because they're getting subpoenas, and they have $10,000 of legal fines that they have to pay. And they're having these threads like, could you please donate to me so that I can afford these legal fees? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought that you were like a a millionaire or a billionaire because you bought Hex early, why are you asking publicly on Twitter for a $10,000 donation so you can handle the legal fees? And why isn't Richard scooping in to give you some money to handle with the legal fees? So it just delusion, like a moment of disillusion where you realize that actually these Hexagon people aren't that, like most of them sort of bought Hex at the top and now it's down like 80%. So many of them are not actually in. But the genius thing about it is that Hex is so inflationary. So in order to not get diluted into nothing, you have to stake. And you have to stake more than the average amount. You have to stake your Hex for more than 3,333 days. So you have to stake it, what is it, like eight years? That's the only way that you're not getting diluted. But then you're actually locked up for 8 years. And then you're in the situation where all your capital, you can't even get it back until 8 years. So the only thing that you can do is just say that Richard is God on earth and everyone should listen to him. Because that's the only way that you're going to be able to get some fraction of your money out of that thing.
For 8 years.
For 8 years. So they're locked into this, I call it findom. You know what findom is?
Nope.
Financial dominance. It's a thing that usually girls do. Like sexy girls, they will rope you into, like, well, there are some men that are attracted by the idea that there's a hot girl that takes control of their finances, and then they're like...
but hold on, Tinder Swindler was a male. Isn't that a similar scenario?
Yeah, but he wasn't super transparent about what the scam was. In the Findom example, the men actually give away their wealth to a girl knowingly, and they want the girl to be like, they want the girl to be in control of their money. It's sort of
like a domination thing.
Yeah, it's like a domination thing.
Financial BDSM.
Yeah, that's why it's called Findom, financial domination. And that is the thing that the Hexicans are doing with Richard Heart, except that it's not a hot girl; it's a fat guy in a Prada in a Prada outfit
who looks like Axl Rose. He's like a shit Axl Rose.
Yes, if you want to get into Findom, like at least do it with don't do it with like it's
Danny. What the hell is going on here?
My favorite thing is that Trayvon James. Do you remember? Is it Trayvon James?
Yeah.
The BitConnect guy.
Yeah.
He's like a big guy in Hex as well.
Of course he is. Of course he is. Oh God, our YouTube's going to be full of them now.
Good.
We're going to restart the Richard Heart fire for the next 2 years. I want to go and hang out with him. I just want to go and have a lunch with him. No cameras, no microphones. I just want to talk to him.
Trevon or Richard Heart?
Richard Heart.
I actually got stuck in an elevator with Richard Heart not long ago.
Well, he's a big guy, so...
And the elevators in Sweden are like built in the 60s. They are not built for like Americans. So we all got stuck in an elevator for like 30 minutes.
So do you have an actual ongoing dialogue with him?
Yeah, well, not now, because a couple of months ago, I like officially called him a scammer.
Wow.
Yeah, because the way that he's been managing the Pulse Chain project was just, beyond, like it was, I was unable to come up with any reason for why this is not a blatant scam at this point. When he's taken billions from his community and he's not even up to date with how the development process is going, and compared to what he said it was going to be and what it actually is, it's just a scam. Like, you can't say I'm going to make a better Ethereum and then you're like, actually I'm sort of cloning a version of Ethereum. It's just
is it being used at all?
It's a test net at the moment.
Right. Okay.
It's a test net.
Isn't he living here in the UK? I see a lot of photos of him in shops in the UK.
I don't think that he lives in the UK. And I'm also, like, as much as I think that some of the things that he's doing is bad, I am like ideologically against like doxing the locations of people.
No, of course, no. I'm saying it more that I thought he was quite public about being in the UK.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not.
Okay. Well, I want to see him. I don't want to interview him. I don't know. I'm intrigued by these types of individuals. Like, I can disagree with them fundamentally, but also see them as entertainment. Like Craig Wright, similar. I'm massively intrigued by Craig Wright. Whilst being in a 4-year litigation with him, which has been fucking horrendous, I'm still intrigued by the guy. Like, I want to sit down and talk to him. There's so many questions I have.
I'm the exact same person. I'm, like a fly, attracted to insanity. Because I want to understand it's like interesting from an anthropological point of view. You want to dissect this.
Yeah, what is your motivation? What are you doing? Like, what are you getting from this? Because in some ways, I feel some of these characters are more lost. They're not free. They're the exact opposite of free. They're trapped. And I want to know what's really going on inside. Anyway, fuck Richard Heart. Let's go on to the proper stuff. What do you care about?
Right now?
Yes.
Like on a high level or in crypto, in Bitcoin?
Crypto. And bear in mind, I don't give a shit really about crypto, but...
Yeah, no, well, if we talk about like Bitcoin in particular, the thing that I care most about these days is I think that we can create a better Bitcoin culture.
Okay.
I think that,
one culture?
No, just another one. I mean, I think that we have this laser eye maxi stake eating Bitcoin community, and that's fine for them. Let them do that. Like let them express their adoration for Bitcoin in that way. But what I don't feel currently exists at the moment is a way for people to be Bitcoiners in a way that doesn't really fall into the same slot. Like a way to be a Bitcoiner that doesn't have as rigorous or restrictive parameters of what it means to be a Bitcoiner. I want there to be a Bitcoin conferences, Bitcoin podcasts that are very Bitcoin positive, but where you don't feel like you have to sort of toe a particular party line.
Is that not what Bitcoin did? Do you think I towed the line? You can be honest. You won't offend me.
I think that you could find a forum of Bitcoinism that embraces the person that you want to be even more. Like, I think that you feel that you have to not, like, you have an audience base.
Uh-huh.
And I think that there could be a much larger audience base that allows you to completely be the type of Bitcoiner that you want.
I am 100% the Bitcoiner I want to be.
Okay.
Danny knows me inside out. I've wrestled with a lot of things, but I'm not ideologically trapped in anywhere to. I definitely walk my own path. But Danny, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if...
Well, I'm curious what you mean, Eric.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, isn't it difficult though, the things that you've had to do? Hasn't it been a journey for you to define for yourself the Bitcoiner that you want to be?
I don't define who I want to be. Though I just be me.
Yeah.
I just be me.
But isn't it a bit complicated? Like, doesn't it come
really easy? It's the easiest thing because I just get up and be me.
But are you saying, is the pressure from like other Bitcoiners to represent something, even if you choose not to represent those things, is the pressure from them? Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Yeah. Don't you feel that you get a lot of pressure from...
Sure. Yeah. But they also get a lot of pressure. So everyone gets pressure because there's very rarely always a singular objective truth. So even if I was like Saifedean, like very strict in my economic views and my views of the world, there'll be other people then putting pressure on me saying, "No, you're crazy. You don't understand this." Like if I was, a seed oil avoiding, steak eating, religious Bitcoiner, people will be saying, well, Bitcoin is whatever position you hold, you'll get pressure. I genuinely just wake up and I just be me every day. And so, but I tell you why, because it's the easiest thing to do. Once you I think it's a hack. Just being you is really fucking easy. When you start being something else, you have to remember to be that. So it becomes harder. It's like it's like when you get something wrong. Say you put out a stupid tweet, which I've done, right? And you double down and triple down. There's like this inertia people have an inertia to apologizing and admitting they're wrong. But once they realize that apologizing and admitting you're wrong is a superpower, because it does two things. One, it sets you free from your mistake, sets you free from the pressures, that burden that sits on you. But two, people respect you. They go, oh, yeah, well done for admitting you're wrong. That's great. Thank you. I trust you now. So all I have to do, Eric, every day, I just have to get up and just be me. That's it. And so if I align with the Bitcoin, it's because I agree with them. And if I don't align with them, it's because I disagree with them. And that's my honest held belief.
Peter, I'm super happy to hear that you found a way to be a Bitcoiner that seems frictionless for you. That you found a format for you to express your enthusiasm for Bitcoin that doesn't come with struggles. That's very easy.
There are struggles. Like people lie about me. That's a struggle because I don't like it. And I respond. Even my son yesterday was saying to me, he's like, oh, occasionally, Dad, I like look on your YouTube or go on your Twitter, and it's like you're replying to some guy whose avatar is a banana who's got 8 followers. But my problem is if I see something and if it's wrong, I want to correct it. Say, no, that's wrong. What you said about me is wrong, or fuck off, or whatever. That's just I don't like people lying about me. That pisses me off. And so there are pressures. The bigger pressure is trying to find a truth or trying to find my path in the correct way and maybe going wrong somewhere, because I don't want to mislead people. That's finding truth. That's the biggest struggle or pressure I have with. I don't care. I mean, I do care. I care if I lose followers, of course. If people don't listen to podcasts, they say it's shit. Of course I care. But I will lose them. Like if I had to say something on this show, if there was something I thought I would say that might lose people, but it was my truth, I'll still say it. Like I still fundamentally believe in democracy. There are a lot of people who won't listen to my show because I say that.
Yeah, and I see that you're a very strong individual, and I see that you say a lot of things that you know that you're going to catch a lot of flack for. You say them anyway, and then you catch the flack, and then you still seem happy that you said the thing that you believe in. And yeah.
I enjoy life.
But it's not exactly entirely what I mean. So what I mean is basically, if you want to be like I've been in Bitcoin for a very long time, and I want to find forums where I can express my adoration and my enthusiasm for Bitcoin with like-minded people that sort of think about Bitcoin in the ecosystem of macroeconomics and also in the context of other cryptocurrencies. That I don't especially feel like there's a forum for that at the moment. I feel like there's a big blob of people who like Bitcoin in the world, and then there's the sort of hardcore Bitcoin community that has these conferences, that has most of the podcasts and control a lot of part of the Twitter debates and debates on other forums, where there is sort of a party line. I would like there to be another party line where you're saying like, look, I like Bitcoin, but all the other attributes that are being associated with the party line, I don't necessarily abide by those, but that doesn't make me not a Bitcoiner. I want there to be a forum for people who like Bitcoin. It all comes down to a thing that happened, let's say 4 or 5 years ago. There used to be a belief that Bitcoin would be, the one ring to rule them all, basically, in the sense that Bitcoin is the soundest form of money with the most robust consensus mechanism. And with this consensus mechanism, we can build layers on top of Bitcoin. And on top of these layers, all the features that we want out of potentially other altcoins, like if you want to build smart contracts, the decentralized exchanges, we would be able to harness the robustness and strength of the Bitcoin consensus engine to power those other layers. So if you go back to when Blockstream was invented, Blockstream was invented with basically a singular mission. The mission of the Blockstream company was to create sidechains on top of Bitcoin, or on the side of Bitcoin, where it was even in the sidechains white paper, they described, we want to build financial derivatives instruments. We want to build peer-to-peer marketplaces. We want to build decentralized exchanges, basically describing DeFi. And they wanted to build that on top of Bitcoin in the form of sidechains. Now, none of that happened. We have
they built Liquid, and there wasn't a huge demand for it.
They built Liquid, but inside of Liquid, you cannot build an automated market maker. You cannot build Uniswap inside of Liquid.
Okay.
So the version of DeFi, you know what they did was they basically just forked a copy of Bitcoin Core. They call it Elements. They made some minor tweaks to the code base that didn't really introduce any level of expressivity at all. So I didn't actually implement fully fledged smart contracts inside of Liquid, which means that you cannot build the types of ecosystem that Ethereum has inside of Liquid. It's just not possible. So it was in 2017, you would have people like Luke Jr. saying that, well, you know, we're going to build this type of functionality using drive chains. You've had Paul Stortz on this show, and he's talked about like his long journey of, you know, had some initial optimism. There were some people that were supporting him, and then after the block size wars, people got so afraid of miner control, basically, and because drive chains are ultimately at the behest of miners, the whole enthusiasm for drive chains sort of fizzled out. And now you don't have any way to really build smart contracts on top of Bitcoin, which is fine, I think. You know, you don't necessarily, it's not necessarily that I'm saying that we should build smart contracts on Bitcoin. I'm not saying that we should build ZK rollups on Bitcoin. I'm not saying that we should introduce all that, because there's trade-offs. Like if you introduce smart contracts on Bitcoin, you introduce a level of complexity around Bitcoin, and you might go so far as you actually harm the core, the thing that made Bitcoin this yellow rock that is like a form of digital gold.
That works very well.
That works very well. And right now, for example, with the banking crisis, you know, the Bitcoin was the thing that pumped first, right? Because people it's a flight to safety. And Bitcoin represents that safe digital assets that is not connected to the existing financial system. And Ethereum doesn't look like that at all, right? It's this sort of crazy thing where things get exploited, things get hacked. But what I'm saying, though, is that if your original mission for Blockstream was that we are going to, through sidechains, enable all the altcoin functionality in second layers, and then you say, wait a minute, that's actually not something that we're going to do because we worry that it's going to harm Bitcoin in the end, then you've left walkover on that goal. So if you have a goal, a big goal, an exciting goal that even inspires Gregory Maxwell and other core developers, this was not like a controversial thing, that we wanted to build these more exciting systems that you could do more with, that could compete with another part of finance, not just the monetary part of finance, the actual plumbing of how finance works. Mm-hmm. If you give that goal up and say, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to fiddle with this sound money part, then of course someone else is going to go and do the thing that you left walk over. And of course someone is going to go and create a permissionless smart contract platform for financial applications on the side of that. So people are going to do that because Bitcoin refused to do it. So now there are two.
Well, okay, there's a lot there. you've talked about a forum for discussions. You've talked about Blockstream. You've talked about why we have alternative layer ones. Okay, but there's a lot, and I can't follow that with one question that covers all of those. Okay, so firstly, in terms of having a forum, you're on that forum right now. Okay, there's nobody I won't have, as long as they're not too much of a nutter. I've had most people on this to talk about it. And we have a broad, we cover a broad set of subjects, broad set of guests. So saying that forum doesn't exist is not true. It exists. Twitter is also that forum. So the forum exists. You can have that discussion. If there isn't a big enough cohort for you, if you're saying there isn't a big enough cohort, it's either one or two things: go and build it, or secondly, in a marketplace of ideas, it's not working.
Yeah. So let me respond to that.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, I mean, I can say the things that I say. No one's, killing me. But what happened when I started to express these ideas within the Bitcoin ecosystem is that the majority of sort of the Bitcoin, the incumbent, the diehard Bitcoiners, they did shun me out.
Okay.
In the sense that, Peter Todd, like most of the Bitcoin maximalists called me dangerous person. Like Peter Todd actually called me potentially dangerous and recommended other people not to listen to my word. And I was shunned in the sense that I wasn't invited into the discussion anymore. I wasn't taken seriously. It was said that because I had read particular things on Vitalik's blog about zero knowledge proofs, I was potentially a danger to Bitcoin. And you want to know something funny? The Blockstream satellite, they are now shooting down zero knowledge proofs that allow you to sync a Bitcoin node much faster.
Cool.
Using the cryptography that was invented in the Ethereuem domain.
That's fucking cool.
That's
great.
fucking awesome. This is the thing that I was trying to say. Like, hey, there are some other things that is happening outside of Bitcoin. Maybe we should pay attention to those. There are some of the things that Vitalik is writing about zero knowledge proofs. These things can have major implications for how we can improve Bitcoin. Also, Peter Todd says, you're potentially dangerous. You're a shitcoiner. What's his name? What is his name? Wagami.
Warren.
Warren Togami.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just unfollowed me, said, my word wasn't worth listening to. And now even the Blockstream satellite is lasering down these zero knowledge proofs. This is what I was trying to say. Like, there are things outside of Bitcoin that we can just talk about from like a technical perspective, and they could actually improve Bitcoin. And that level of conversation has not been a part of the primary sort of discussion around Bitcoin of how we can improve and scale the Bitcoin system.
Why do you think that's happened? Why do you think you were shunned?
Because of tribalism.
I disagree. I don't think tribalism would shun you. The interesting thing about Bitcoin is that as it grows, if you don't sell much of your Bitcoin as it grows, your net wealth grows. So the security and future roadmap of it becomes even more important. So back in the block size wars, I had very little Bitcoin. And either way, I wasn't too fussed about kind of what happened with Bitcoin. I was like, well, I can understand the argument for bigger blocks. That makes sense. You can get more transaction through. But I understand the desire for retaining small blocks. You have more security, and because you can, more people can run nodes. You get more decentralized. I see both arguments. Yeah, okay. Well, let's see how this plays out. Very new. I hardly had any Bitcoin, right? If I was going through the block size wars now, I've got a material amount of my net wealth in Bitcoin because as I've made money, I've held Bitcoin. Now I care more. So when ordinals happen, I've been ordered to begin with. Now I think about it more. I'm like, because it affects me and it affects what's happening. And so what I think there's a thing where a lot of people who've been in Bitcoin a long time maybe have more of their net wealth. They care more and more about what happens with it. And they want it to move slower. They don't want things to break. They don't want to screw it up. And so they become very protective over it. And I think that's maybe one of the things that can happen. And yeah, I think there's less tolerance for people with an opinion on Bitcoin who are also seen as potentially being shitcoiners, right? I think there's less tolerance. It's like, well, it's chicken and egg, because you're saying, well, because there's less tolerance, people will move into creating alternative layer ones. I think people can see it the other one, saying, well, you care about those layer ones, so you don't care about Bitcoin. So I can see it both ways, but it could be just delivery. At the time I unfollowed you, I was like, fuck, he's becoming too trolly, too much bullshit.
Yeah, so Jameson Lopp has, did you read his, like a technical overview of Bitcoin toxicity? It was released a couple of weeks ago.
No, I haven't.
Actually goes through.
Hold on, was this the really lengthy one?
The really lengthy
Yeah,
one.
no, I haven't. Just because I looked at him and went, oh, fuck, I need a bit of time.
Yeah, it was long, but I think that he was perhaps the most successful person in actually articulating where does this trolliness from like people like Udi and myself, like what are we up to?
You and Udi are very different, by the way, and we'll come back to that. I'll explain to you how I see you differently.
Okay. But he did capture what this whole like anti-maximalism comes from in a way that I don't think that anyone has really done as successfully before. So what he said was that what has happened to Bitcoin maximalism over the last couple of years is that it's become almost pretty cartoon-like. I don't know if you recognize that you've seen that Bitcoin maximalism is being associated with all of these other conservative values, and it's just become like you're not a Bitcoiner if you're not an anti-vaxxer, and you're not a Bitcoiner if you're like the true Scotsman fallacy has just gotten overboard.
Of course,
and it's gotten to a point where it looks sort of ridiculous to an outsider, and also like the stock to flow mania, like you have. People try to sugarcoat it these days, and they say that the amount of people that believed in stock to flow wasn't really that material.
Like, there was a lot of people who did.
There was a lot of people, like Caitlin Long, like Preston Pish, like Peter Richard, like Saifedean Moose.
Yeah.
Like the article that most people use to link when they're trying to intro people into Bitcoin, Vijay Boyapati.
Yeah.
Boyapati. He was a strong stock to flow believer. And even all of the Swan ambassadors were shilling it so hard that Corey at one point had to say, can you please stop shilling this?
Corey called it out quite early on.
He did eventually. This was in May 2020. And after that, they had already been shilling it for like almost a year. And I mean, so the intellectual sort of quality, I mean, the stock to flow model is not more credible than the rainbow chart, for example. If you look at the arguments that Saifedean
I was very sad when the rainbow chart failed.
It lasted longer than the stock to flow model, though.
I was very, yeah. Well, it had a wide berth.
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at the arguments, so Saifedean Moose, what do you think about him?
Oh, there's a lot to say about Saifedean. I think his book is a very good intro.
I think so too.
I think I tell anyone, I recommend either read The Bullish Case for Bitcoin or read the Bitcoin Standard. I say if you read the Bitcoin Standard, just tear out the part of modern art, because I think he confuses monetary history. I think he uses the history of money, or the failings in money, as a lens to criticize things like modern art, which I'm a fan of. So I think he turns it into propaganda against the things he doesn't personally like in life. Yeah, and that's fine. That's his choice. Me and him aren't friends anymore. We don't talk. He tried to cancel me. We had a significant disagreement. I reached out. I'm always a reach out. Come, should we forget about it? I've done it twice now, and twice he's said yes, shook my hand, then gone off and slagged me off again. So but I can always separate a personal disagreement for whether there's some value. I think he had some value. My main criticism for Saifedean is I think he has damaged his own potential for his own career by not allowing himself to consider that he might be wrong on certain things. He should, he's not very open to debate. He blocks quick, very insulting to people who disagree with them, very condescending. And he was the flag bearer at one point for Bitcoin. He was the number one guy. It was him. It's Saifedean Moose. And now he isn't. You go to
now it's Michael Saylor.
yeah, and you go to a conference. He's given the same presentation he gave 4 years ago. PowerPoint is like it's dull, but I think he's somebody who could add value. But some people just can't handle being thrust into the public eye in front of a lot of people. They don't know how to navigate that. But I can separate what I disagree with on Saifedean or our personal falling out. I can separate that and say I still think he says a lot of. I think he said a lot of things that are smart and probably get some things that are wrong. But that's human nature. Everyone's capable. I'm sure you've got things wrong. We're all capable. I said that to you recently when you were criticizing Michael Saylor. I said, look, we make mistakes. We get things wrong.
So I want to make it clear that I absolutely adore this entire movement, the Bitcoin movement, the cryptocurrency movement, crypto Twitter. As much as we like to hate them and as much as we like to be blasé about how important these things are to us, for me personally, it's been some of the greatest years in my life. Like being able to express my ideas with other people, forming communities, having intellectual debates. It's elevated me, like my sort of spiritual journey in this world, and being able to connect with all these people in a beautiful way. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I cherish it. I'm like a romantic in a sense that I already mourn the day when we're not going to be able to have these interactions anymore. So I care very deeply, and I appreciate it all the time that we are able to have these conversations. There were, though, some things that happened. And let me start with Saifedean, and let me just say something briefly about Michael Saylor. So the stock-to-flow model, it actually came from the block size wars when the small blocker portion won. It made the portion of people that won the block size wars, the small blockers, it made them more confident in their own arguments, and it made them believe that their leaders and their high priests were speaking directly from the voice of Satoshi or God or something. But there were some incredibly insane things that were said at the time, and I'll just mention some of them briefly. So Saifedean Ammous, he had a 10-year academic career in economics. When he described how insane it was that it couldn't have been a fluke that the stock-to-flow model performed the way that it did. The way that he explained that was by saying, the price of Bitcoin could be anywhere between 0 and 100 million. And if we divide that range into $40,000 chunks, what is the probability that you're in one chunk like that at any particular time? It's 0.4 or 0.04%. I think it's 0.4%. That's how low the probability that you are in that particular slot of this very wide range. Okay. What he did next was that, okay, now there's a second day. What is the probability that you're still inside that particular slot? Well, then you have to multiply the probabilities 0.4% times 0.4%. And now if that lasts for like thousands of days, then the probability of that happening is 0. And now there's 4,000 zeros until you get to the next digit. So we're talking about more atoms in the universe. That's how unlikely it is that this has happened, and that's the argument for why the stock-to-flow model is to make it more approachable. What is the probability that when you go to sleep in your bed, and there are 5 billion beds in the world, what is the probability that you wake up in the same bed?
Well, it depends how much I'm drunk. It depends how lucky I've got, but usually it's very high.
Yeah. But if there are 5 billion beds, though, couldn't you have woken up in either one of them? And then if you wake up in every single morning, you wake up in the same bed. This is the same argument that Saifedean made for why the stock-to-flow model was valid. So he doesn't consider the fact that if you are within this 40,000 price range, it's more likely that you're going to be in the same one the next day. He thought it was like, it could have been anyone. So the mathematical argument, and you know, anyone
So
can...
you're saying the math was wrong?
Anyone can make stupid mathematical mistakes.
Yeah.
But not if you have a 10-year academic career in economics. That's when it becomes insane. So, and you know, started with Michael Saylor.
Let's hone on that. So I have points on that. So do you think Saifedean believed his math was correct?
Yes.
Okay, so he made a mistake. Has he admitted it's a mistake?
No.
Okay, so in your eyes and other people's eyes, he's made a mistake. His math is wrong. But he believes he's right. Okay? So in his world, he's right. Paul Krugman, very respected economist. Has he won a Nobel Prize or something?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Nobel Prize winning economist. A lot of people believe he's very wrong and made some considerable mistakes. He still believes he's right. Okay? Do you remember what I said to you in Lugano? Where we sat having a beer in the hotel garden.
I was very drunk in Lugano.
You weren't this. This was in
By the way, they tried, the Bitcoin maximalists tried to not like Francis Pullo.
But yeah, me and him are
trying
friends.
to make me not speak at that conference. So to your point, like there are people that are actively trying to not let me speak at conferences and things like that. But yeah, go ahead.
That's fine. You don't remember what I said to you about, I think you're a very smart person, Eric, like a super intelligent person. You can see things that other people just can't. You know, we joke about the X-Pub. It took me a while to understand the X-Pub. It's just not me. I forget names all the time. We're doing an interview and I'll look to Danny. I was like, what's the name of that person? He will tell me. I can remember numbers. It's just who I am. I'm not technically minded. Compared to most Bitcoiners, I'm one of the least technically minded. I would say I'm at the better end of the spectrum on creative ideas or marketing sales. We all have our skills, right? You're able to see things that other people can't. You can look in the matrix and you can see the world. I just see green code. That's all I see. But I don't think you recognize the gap between you and other people on this. I don't think you appreciate that. Why other people can't do that. I think you expect everyone to see that how you do.
I don't expect them to see it. I'm just expecting that the people who take on the roles of being the high priests and the educators in this space, like we used to have Andreas Antonopoulos, who could explain these things intelligently and correctly, and we replaced him with Michael Saylor. And Michael Saylor does even more.
We'll come back to that. Because if you want to talk about Saylor, I want to keep to point by point. Is that I don't think you appreciate that gap in knowledge. I don't think you recognize what it is. And I don't see it as a criticism of you directly. I think it's more of an observation. Is you will explain something to me. You've done it plenty of times and expect me to just understand it. And I'm sat there going, right, what the fuck did he just say? Right, this doesn't work because, okay, did I sleep in that bed? And I'm trying to literally figure that shit out. And my brain, the way my synapses connect or however the brain works, it works differently. But you could come to me with a logo for a company you're launching and you think it's the bollocks. And I look at it straight away and go, that looks shit. That's not going to work for this reason. Or that marketing. We have different things, but I don't think you recognize that gap. And I think it frustrates you.
No, I recognize that gap. I'm just saying that when we're in the process of electing our highest intellectual Bitcoin thought leaders, then I put them to a higher standard than I put you.
Of course, and you should. So maybe,
and when they are saying absolutely ludicrously things, and it's not just me that is able to distinguish or identify how crazy some of these things. So take, for example, the Bitcoin Mining Council that Saylor launched.
Yeah.
So in the Bitcoin Mining Council, Saylor has presentations where he looks at, okay, so this is the amount of hashes that Bitcoin computes.
Yeah.
And this is the amount of hashes that Dogecoin computes. But it's extremely harder to compute a script hash in Litecoin than it is to do a double SHA 256 computation in Bitcoin. So the actual number of hashes is not the metric that you should focus on. It's how hard, like how much computational resources does it require to create a single hash. So you cannot compare these apples to oranges when you're looking at hash rates across different hash functions. This is one of the basic things that anyone who starts to study hash algorithms or cryptocurrencies, anyone who has done anything with mining knows this. So, and it's not like he just made a mistake. What happened was that the people within the Bitcoin Mining Council, like Nick Carter, there's this other guy, what's his name? Will Foxley from the Compass Mining. They told him, Saylor, what you're doing here is absolutely insane. You cannot compare hash rates across hash functions. And they also told him that you cannot make an equivalence between higher hash rate, meaning more security, because ASICs just keep getting faster over time. They explained this to him, and he didn't listen. He just talked back at them. And then they said, well, I can't stand by these metrics that you're pushing out. I'm leaving. I'm departing.
Yep.
So my point is that it had the intellectual climate of our highest held Bitcoin thought leaders are cartoonish to a sense. So I want to go back to that blog post that Jameson Lopp wrote, where he explained what me and Udi and other people are doing. When we want to participate in this Bitcoin ecosystem, when we want to survive sort of intellectually here and like be Bitcoiners, and we see all this nonsense and insanity, the way that we survive is by trolling the people who say absolutely crazy things, just so that we can persevere, so that we can remain our own sanity. By like, I'm a Bitcoiner and there's a bunch of nonsense and insane things that is happening in the Bitcoin domain, and I'm still a Bitcoiner, and I don't want to be associated with that. How do I signal clearly to other people in the ecosystem that you can be a Bitcoiner and you don't have to think that the price of Bitcoin is programmatically ordained from a supply variable that changes in very in increments, and that is going to determine the price for Bitcoin to go to $1 million just because of these small fluctuations. So to stay sane within this mess of insanity, we have resorted to trolling, and the reason that we're doing it is to bring those people down a notch, so that when people go into Bitcoin, they don't say, okay, this is Michael Saylor and he's the god of Bitcoin and he's the one that you should listen to. No, this is a person who has some crackpot, inadequate technical ideas. You can listen to him because sometimes when he's talking, he's almost mesmerizing in the way he's a good speaker. And Saifedean is also like powerful in some ways. But you should know though that this is not how Bitcoiners think of Bitcoin. These are how some high priests of the protocol are talking about Bitcoin, but there is another community below that. And right now, the problem is that the community of Bitcoiners that are below that, they haven't really found a way to congregate and have conferences and podcasts and places where they can express ideas. Because what's happening is that every time that we try to step up and we want to go to the existing Bitcoin conferences and the existing Bitcoin podcasts, there's so much lashback from the sort of the elitist Bitcoin community that basically harass us to the point where we feel like, okay, maybe this isn't like, why should I go in here and try to talk about Bitcoin and say like zero knowledge proofs may be good for Bitcoin one day, and here we are, they're getting lasered down from space by a block stream, which is what we said. So I just want to let those people who aren't who are too afraid to express their enthusiasm for Bitcoin because they know that they will get hate from this very very tribal layer of Bitcoiners. Let them know that this layer is not the thing that defines Bitcoin culture. We can just ignore them.
I'm already agreeing with you on that, but like I said, I've already covered that. But look, when you say you're very trolly, being trolly is a choice. And people who troll also enjoy the process of trolling. So I think what you really have here is a marketing problem. As a marketer, I think you have a marketing problem of marketing your disagreements or your alternative views on narratives. And once you're seen as an enemy on the outside, perhaps because you've shitcoined or you've trolled, your ideas sometimes don't matter.
But shitcoining should not look.
But it does matter.
No, because look,
It matters to them, so therefore you have a marketing problem.
yeah, but it doesn't matter to the, there's this, there was in Miami a couple of years ago, they did a raise of hands. It's like, is there anyone in the audience who owns Bitcoin?
It was, yeah.
People raised hands.
And 2/3 were about owned a shitcoin.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they are Bitcoiners. So just because you have shitcoin, that is not an argument for why you should not be able to participate in the Bitcoin debate. You can be a Bitcoiner, and the reason that it is not the reason that we have to shitcoin is because Bitcoin gave walkover on drive chains.
No, you don't have to shitcoin. The reason you shitcoin is you choose to shitcoin. You don't have to. You choose to.
We are trying to enable the vision that the Blockstream company had back in 2014. And because Bitcoin chose not to go down that route, we are still...
But Bitcoin didn't choose anything. Blockstream chose not to. It's a bit like Amazon started out selling books and now has AWS and every other part of its business. Things change. Businesses have commercial pressures.
No, it was more than that. It wasn't just Blockstream. It was also the people who are most instrumental in defining Bitcoin consensus that no longer wanted to see drive chains happen on Bitcoin. And for that reason, we don't have smart contracts on Bitcoin. And now, because of that, this was the primary objective of not only Blockstream, but the entire, like when we used to say that Bitcoin is going to power all of the things that we're going to be able to do with altcoins, now we're not doing it anymore. So there are some other currencies like Ethereum that are doing that, and you are not an enemy of Bitcoin just because you're trying to do the thing that Bitcoin said it was going to do, just that you're doing it with another currency.
Eric, I think even if Bitcoin had done that, all these alternative currencies and layer ones would have existed anyway.
Yes, and then it would have been shitcoining, because if you could do that on Bitcoin, but you chose to do it with another currency, then you're shitcoining. But now, if you cannot do it with anything else, if you cannot do it with Bitcoin alone, and you choose to do it with another currency because you have to, then you're trying to do the things that we wanted to do with Bitcoin originally. So,
but the priorities change. There will be reasons people chose not to do this. There is the consensus layer, but you have social consensus. You have the pathway for things to be added to Bitcoin. And during that pathway or discussion of things, people would have said, we're not going to do that now, or we don't think we should do it. And they would have had their reasons. Their reasons might be contrary to yours. But to me, there are a group of Bitcoiners who are building Bitcoin for future generations, not for themselves, not for what was needed now. They're building it for future generations, for my son's children who don't even exist yet. They care about the end goal. Okay. And so for them in that end goal, it's like, we don't need to do that now. We've got to focus on this bit. Let's get this bit 100%. And that's fine. That's the way it is. And do you know what I say to that, Eric? Just deal with it. You are now in opposition to them. I'm not saying you're right, they're right. I'm just saying you have a disagreement and now you're on the outside. So you're in a different group of people.
Let's play a little bit of a hardball, Peter.
Okay.
Let's look at what this hardcore Bitcoin maxi cult is actually successful at doing, and how
I wouldn't call it a cult.
Sorry, the Bitcoin.
Let's say this cohort of people.
A cohort of people. Okay, let's look at what they are actually successful at doing at the moment. So, from my point of view, this cohort, many of them are now migrating to Nostr.
Yep.
And they are doing Lightning payments on custodial wallets.
Yes, I agree.
So, and at the same time, in Ethereum land, you have people trading NFTs. They're using MetaMask. MetaMask has some points of centralization because they're all connecting to the MetaMask node. But the actual keys are still held by the users themselves. Whereas in the custodial Lightning wallet use case, wallet of Satoshi can rug you. They can take all of your funds.
Of course.
Right. So this group of like decentralization maxis who hate shitcoiners is pouring all their Bitcoin that they want to use for tips, and they're sending it around in a completely custodial fashion, whereas the Ethereum people are actually using cryptocurrency in a non-custodial fashion.
Yeah.
So what is it? I mean, if Bitcoiners were like anti-centralization, why are they the ones that are currently interacting with Bitcoin in a completely custodial fashion? And this is a thing that I've been trying to say for years, that when you are so hell-bent on decentralization that you cannot consider a drive chain, for example, because you think that drive chains are actually a block size increase for miners. It forces you into this particular way of interacting with the system, which is Lightning. That's the thing that we've focused all our, we put all our eggs in this one Lightning basket that not even the hardcore Bitcoin maximalists themselves can figure out. Well, maybe they can't figure it out, but to the extent that they interact with it, they do it in a custodial fashion. And so some people will say, no, on Nostr, I'm dealing with tips, like it's small amounts. I'm not so worried that I'm going to get hacked because it's just tips, right? I can tell you why that argument is not true. If you have a decentralized Lightning wallet that you like to use, you're not going to go and install a custodial wallet and use that one specifically for Nostr if you had a decentralized Lightning wallet.
Can I just ask a couple of questions? MetaMask, is that layer 2 or layer 1?
It works for all the layers. It's just a wallet, and it can connect to rollups. It can connect to main chain. It can connect to any EVM based chain.
Okay, so it can be any. Okay, because I don't use MetaMask and I don't use Ethereum, so I don't understand it. My expectation, and we're well out of my wheelhouse here, is that non-custodial Lightning at the moment is hard. And the only reason I know it's hard is when I was at a conference selling Raoul Bedford merch, somebody wanted to pay with Lightning and they wanted to use their non-custodial wallet and had to connect to their node. It was painful. So my expectation is that in the world of non-custodial Lightning wallets, we're at the stage where it's hard to build and we're just not there yet. I don't know what non-custodial wallets exist. I don't know if Moon is or Phoenix. Well, I don't know any of these wallets. Do you know? Is Phoenix?
Phoenix is, I think, yeah.
Non-custodial. So I think work's being done there, but this comes back to the point is that I'm in this world now with Bitcoin, whereas like I'm fine with the long waiting. I'm fine with the long term. It's the Ethereum tends to be that build fast, break things kind of thing, and we've seen a lot of things being broken. I'm really long-term patient with Bitcoin. I don't need Lightning right now. I need Lightning to work decades ahead for the future. So I'm very patient with that, and I'm okay with that. Like that's, do I have a wallet for Satoshi? Well, I did because I got it when I got Nostra, and I have $50 on there. Did I have a blue wallet? Yes, I did. Never really had more than, actually at one point I did through a bull run. I started off with like $300 and it became like $3,000 because of that. But I'm patient for this stuff. And I trust the people who on the devs, I'm not a dev. I don't understand this technical shit. So I just trust those people. They're going to go and build it. And I'm in this place now where I've got my Bitcoin security set up in a way that I can do it as a non-technical person. And I feel very secure that my Bitcoin will not get hacked or stolen. Very secure in that. So I'm okay with this. I just think you have a different timescale, a different perspective. And it's valid to criticize this. What you're saying is valid. It's valid for you to raise this. But what you've picked is one thread where you're critical of Bitcoiners and Bitcoin development. There are multiple threads you could do that. There's multiple threads on Ethereum we could pick to criticize. So that's just the way it is. They're two competing visions of a blockchain, of a L1. It's just two competing visions.
Look, if the current reality is that people try so hard with decentralization in Bitcoin that not even the hardcore Bitcoin maximalist can be bothered with using it because it incurs such harsh mental overhead when you're trying to interact with those systems, that the net effect is that more of them use custodial systems for the user experiences advantages. That is a failure. And if what I'm trying to say is like, hey, well, if we only focus on Lightning and using Lightning in a decentralized way is clunky and it's going to lead to people to use it custodially, maybe it isn't all that bad if we try like dry chains or something.
Then try it. Paul Stork's trying it.
He's been trying it for 8 years now.
Okay.
He's not getting anywhere. He is not getting anywhere. That thing is dead. That thing is dead. And it's dead because the cohort of Bitcoiners that have the most control over the consensus debate has sort of blocked that path.
Why are they blocking it? Why do you think they're blocking it?
Because they don't think that it's decentralized enough.
Okay, so that's the marketplace for ideas.
Yeah, but the decentralized option that they chose led 95% of Nostr users to use custodial Lightning wallets. And people, when they have a working Lightning wallet, they're going to stick to using that. They're not going to be like, oh, now I'm actually at the point where I'm going to go and migrate to a less centralized wallet. That's not how humans operate. If you give them a wallet that works, they're going to use that.
I don't think that's entirely true. I think people will change. People change wallets. I went from a single ledger to a multi-sig.
Okay, so do you switch browsers when you're on your computer and you're like, oh, I wanna actually here when I'm visiting this website, I actually want to use a little bit more privacy-focused browser, or do you just use Chrome and you hope that you won't get into trouble?
So I do switch, but sometimes, but I just don't think the analogy works. I moved to Brave, and then Brave became unusable at times, and then I've gone back to Chrome sometimes. I think people do change, but I think I'm coming back to what is it you want? Do you want to be right, or do you want to have things change? Because look, sometimes it's not whether you're right; it's how you navigate it. How you communicate things. Like sometimes you have to do a sales job, a BIP. Anyone who puts forward a BIP, they have to do a sales job. They have to sell that to the community. They have to sell it to people that this is a right thing for Bitcoin. And so it just brings about, what is it you want, Eric?
Yeah, no, at this point, me writing what I want to do at this point is that I want to harmonize the Bitcoin discussion climate a little bit. I want people to understand that the direction that we've been going with Lightning is unfortunately, after many, many years now, like I ran one of the first Lightning nodes. I was extremely optimistic about Lightning when it came out. I ran one of the first 500 Lightning nodes, and I was a very strong believer. But the trends that I'm seeing, all the trends that I'm seeing I'm seeing people head more and more into custodial wallets. So
can it be fixed on Lightning?
The annoying thing with Lightning is that every time that you're trying to fix a problem, another problem pops up in another area. So it's like a balloon, and you're trying to squeeze the air at one part, and it becomes a bigger problem at another end. That's sort of the design dynamic that you're struggling with Lightning, and you can ask any Lightning developer that's sort of actually is the case. That it's not just like we're cutting off pieces of the problem, we're causing more problems every time. It's like the heads of a hydra. So I'm not super optimistic, and I think that it's time to. Okay, so let me put it this way. Let's say that it's not time. Let's say that actually let's just let Bitcoin be the way that it is, and I'm fine with that also. By the way, just to make it clear, I think that there is a place in the world for a super conservative currency that is Bitcoin, and I think that there's going to be appreciation for that solid, maximally aspiring towards decentralization type of currency in the world. There's room for that. But if you go down that route, you are opening the doors for something like Ethereum to exist. And if you are a Bitcoiner, which I am, then you shouldn't have so much struggle being a participant in the Bitcoin debate just because you've been forced to entertain this other other currency.
Yeah, but again, it's the way you navigate these groups. If you are vitriolic in your criticism of people, if you are trolling, whether you're right or wrong, you can put people off. You just again, it come back. You've got, to me, it doesn't. You don't have a fact problem. You have a marketing problem.
I feel like I have to do it because I feel like I want to give the Bitcoin community overall a better perception from the outside world. And the way that I do that is by limiting the adoration for people who say absolutely insane things, like Michael Saylor does, and like Saifedean does. I still want them to exist. I still want them to be able to say what they do. I just want to inform other people in the Bitcoin world that, okay, these people do tend to say some pretty crazy things. Let's like appreciate them for the good things that they say, but let's not make them goddesses. let's not make them gods. Let's not make them be the high priest. Let's just level the playing field a little bit and allow voices that aren't as crazy with the things that they say to also come up to the surface to sort of harmonize the discussion climate.
I think a lot of that's happening. I think over the last year or two, there's been a new wave of interesting people who I don't fit within that cohort that you've talked about. I particularly like talking to Natalie Smolenski. I think David Zell's an interesting character. I particularly like Jason Mayer. Who else do we like?
Matthew Pines.
Matthew Pines is interesting. I think Bitcoin goes through these life cycles, and in those life cycles, cultures emerge. But as Bitcoin becomes more mainstream, more accepted, there'll be multiple cohorts, and there will always be a role for this hardcore maxi, who I super appreciate. I think they do a really good thing, but there'll be new cohorts. And look, people always, hierarchies always build, and people always group around specific leaders or voices. Happens in life, business, politics, sport, culture. It's not necessarily a objectively truthful meritocracy. I mean, just look at politics. Do we have the best people in politics? No. But we still have them as our elected leaders who people vote for. It's just the way it is. But sometimes if you want to make change, you have to observe, I think, and you have to consider how you're selling that message. Because, like, if you go to a bar and you see a hot chick and you're like, God, she's cool, and you go up to her, you don't go up to her and say, hi, I'm Eric. You should date me for these reasons. I'm this, I'm that. Because she's going to think, what the fuck, who's this nutbag? You have to go and sell it to her. You have to go and be nice. You have to be, you have to sell it in a different package.
But I did that though. Don't you remember? Do you remember my starting point in the sort of Bitcoin ecosystem? I was the altcoin slayer. Remember that? I was the one.
Vaguely. And then, but then you set up a shitcoin fund.
So the point of the shitcoin.
But you did. You did.
The point of the shitcoin fund was for people that desperately wanted exposure to cryptocurrencies. I said, well, okay, you want exposure to cryptocurrency, let me at least eliminate all the fucking centralized garbage hog shit project, and now you can have an exposure to that.
Bollocks. It was to make money. It was to make money. Just say it how it was. That's fine. Like, I got no issue with people buying shitcoins to make money. That's absolutely their choice. If they want to go to Vegas and they want to gamble, fine. If they want to buy shitcoins, I don't care. But let's not rationalize this as some kind of altruistic venture to help it. It was to make money.
No, well, if you looked at the exposures of my fund, the vast majority of the holdings in that portfolio was Bitcoin.
Okay. 80%, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a 20% shitcoin fund. But you went from altcoin slayer to shitcoin fund. You still did that. I mean, that's...
How is it a shitcoin fund if the primarily holding is Bitcoin?
Listen.
There has to be some gradient there.
I'm trying to tell you why I don't care why you do these things in the end. This is your choice. I'm trying to tell you why you may have a difficulty in selling your ideas to other people, why they might reject them. I'm just telling you why it might happen. Sometimes you have to throw people a bone. Sometimes you have to meet people where they are. Sometimes you just have to, that's just life.
Do you think that Tour de Meester ran a shitcoin fund?
I have no idea what he ran, but I love the guy.
Adamant Capital.
I have no idea.
Do you know that they had sort of the same asset distribution that we had?
No idea at all.
Okay.
Well, so are people just bullying you? They're just picking on you. They're like, Eric, let's pick on Eric.
And I'm fine with that because I pick on them way more.
I just think it's a sales problem. I keep coming back to it. I think you have no problem selling it to people.
That's probably true, and that's why nowadays I'm kind of moving out from this. Let's dunk on Michael Saylor, let's dunk on Francis, and all these people. I'm trying to find a way, like, how can I be more productive in my goals?
You could come on here, you can outline in detail the technical issues you found with something, the reason you disagree with it, and you can outline a solution, and you could propose to discuss this with the people who are relevant to it, and you can get into that battle place of ideas. But if you do a wizard and you have wizards in the shower and you dunk on people, they're just going to be like, I can't be bothered with this guy. Because you know what? This is serious to some of these people. Like, whether or not you agree with them, some people, this is their life's work.
But do you think that the wizards thing is a bad idea, though?
I just think it's a distraction. For me, I don't care. I just think it's a distraction.
Do you know that we onboarded more people to Lightning in that experiment? Like, I think there's 11,000.
Hold on. So you put all these people at risk with custodial wallets?
We didn't tell them which wallets to use. We didn't tell them which wallets to use.
Yeah, but you knew Bitcoin. You knew Lightning wasn't ready.
We got messages from like the CEO of Breeze saying like, hey, what's this huge influx of Lightning users? We don't even have like the channel capacity. Like how many people are we going to expect here?
Are they onboarded as Bitcoiners, or are they onboarded as ordinal traders or whatever? Like, I don't know.
You should have seen these people when they interacted with Lightning for the first time through this. They were saying like, wait a minute, can Bitcoin be transferred this fast over the Lightning network? Why is this is like Solana, but for Bitcoin? This is incredible.
So it sounds to me like you do have your platform, you do have your community, you do have your cohort.
We're creating it right now. This is so when you're criticizing the Taproot Wizards project, I'm saying
I'm not criticizing it. I'm just not interested in it, and I just think there are ways and approach. I mean, I haven't really seen you with the Wizards. I've just seen Udi, and you two, I think, are very different people. I think you're very different people. I think he wants to troll. I think he enjoys it. I think it's like a part of him, and he'll listen to this, and then he's going to DM me. Why did you say that about me? And I'm going to be like, it's just my observation. I see you two as very different people. I think you have so much value to add, and I just think the way you're relaying the message is a bit difficult, and people are struggling to hear it through whatever profile they've built up of you in their eyes. Whereas Udi, I think they just don't give a fuck. I think he post-rationalizes a lot of things. I don't think he owns his mistakes as much. And I just see it, I don't know. Danny, help me out here.
Well, I mean, you want my opinion on the difference between you and Udi?
Yeah, how do you see them?
I think you try and do the same things, but I think you're right. Udi's more of a troll in general. But I appreciate that the people are actually questioning some of the narratives, because I think some of the narratives are wrong. And what you were saying about Saylor before, I think is really valuable. Like, if he's been given information about what his output being totally incorrect and he's ignored it, then that is an issue and it should be brought to people's attention. So I do think there's a role in it, but I think the trolling doesn't always work.
I've given Saylor feedback on things. He's ignored me. That happens. Yeah, he's juggling what he's juggling.
Look, at the end of the day, I am a Bitcoiner, and I don't give a shit if people call me a shitcoiner. I'm trying. I've been in Bitcoin since 2012, and Ross Albright changed the world for me. And he's in prison now for how long is it? 8 years, 9 years, 10 years?
He's been in for 10 years. He's passed a decade, but he got a double life sentence for 40 years. He'll be there for the entirety of his life if his sentence isn't commuted.
And the things that Ross did had an insanely impactful, an insane impact on my life.
Same here.
I feel like every day, at some point, at some level, I feel like I want to honor the opportunities that he gave me. And And the way for me to do that is just by trying to make Bitcoin as successful as I can. And if that involves pushing down these insane voices that promises that Bitcoin is going to go to $1 billion because a man with a cap on Twitter said that when the supply schedule fluctuates this way, it automatically makes Bitcoin worth $1 million. Like, I want to make sure that, okay, that's not how we portray the message of Bitcoin. When we have big leaders like Saifedean and Saylor, when they're saying crazy things like let's take them down a few notches, and let's sort of widen the Bitcoin debate. And if it is the fact that Lightning is pushing people towards centralized solutions, then maybe drive chains is a better thing to explore. And if it's easier to sync a Bitcoin node now because of the zero knowledge proofs that the Ethereum developers developed are actually syncing nodes faster in Kyrgyzstan at the moment. That's a good thing. Bitcoiners have been calling that type of mathematics voodoo made up by Vitalik. If I can just neuter those voices to some extent and elevate the Bitcoin discussion, that's what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm trying to...
Do you think you're being effective?
What I'm saying is that I'm trying.
Well, you said with Wizards you onboarded loads of people, so maybe your way works. Maybe you are being effective.
Wizards is sort of the first thing that I'm seeing that we actually have a shot here. I think with Wizards we can restore that culture of magic and fun in Bitcoin again. Make it a little bit more playful again. We have tried this, laser eye, meat eating, blah blah blah, for a while, and I don't think that it actually grew the community that much. It grew the community with some people who are actually not that easy for common people for them to join. Like this group of Bitcoiners that we've cultivated for the last couple of years. They are not going to help us to grow this community by a tenfold or 100-fold anymore. That's a small clique of people that is now taking control.
So Bitcoin is not a monoculture. It's not a monoculture. Monoculture. Bitcoin is not a monoculture. Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's life though. Like I'm very different from Danny in some ways. I'm from you and from Connor here. And there are different groups of people that's just life. So you've created this new cohort, this new group of people who are doing something different. Cool. And you know what? You can have a battle with the other ones. That's life. Some people are on the left, on the right. They have different ideas and they battle. And that is the battle place of ideas. I think that's fucking cool then. You've got that. And you might be right. And the hardcore maxis might be wrong. And that's fine.
And look, I'm right now I'm enjoying the current situation that we're in. I enjoy that we're finally getting people to engage with Bitcoin in a new way that isn't as, I don't want to use the word toxic, but that are more inspired about using Bitcoin in a way that is fun, and they don't make trade-offs of what they want to do according to what some cohort thinks that they like. They're just doing what they want to. Yeah. In a more fun way. And so now I think we're actually in a good situation.
I want my wizard now. What would my wizard look like?
I think your wizard, do you remember the profile picture that you had when you first DM'd me?
The guitar.
The guitar guy?
Yeah.
I think that's the Peter wizard.
Shall I go back to that one?
I think you should.
I think I'm going to bring that guy back.
We made a, do you remember the Dan Held shell? The Dan Held, he made a case for a node.
Yeah.
So we made him a wizard that was completely shaped with this shell, the one with the red lasers coming out of it, and he was like, I kind of want to put that face behind me. Yeah. So I didn't accept it, but I still think that that's one of the best wizards that we made.
You got to accept the one you're given. Show me some of these, Danny. Let me see if I can guess who
yeah,
some
look
of them
at
are.
Nick,
But the bald one's clearly Udi.
Yeah. Look at the Nick Carter one. Look at the Nick Carter one that he has a rising star behind him. Does
Nick love it? Who's the Doge one? Is that Elon?
The Doge one is Billy. What's his name? Billy 2K. He was one of the co-founders of Dogecoin. And did you see that he ratioed Elizabeth Warren?
I did see that. Yeah, I did
with
see that.
With the wizard picture. And Arthur Hayes is a wizard now.
Tell me Arthur Hayes is just a wizard with a huge grin. Please, it's got to be him with the huge grin.
He has.
Ice nobody. Do you remember the huge grin one?
I definitely do.
I want to see my wizard.
If you want a wizard, you gotta wear it though.
I'll wear it, but I'm not.
Wear it
I'll wear it as a t-shirt.
or as a T-shirt.
But it's not financial advice. It doesn't mean I support ordinals. It means I'm ordinal curious.
I mean, we're not gonna.
He looks like a ghost. Dan Hill. Why has he got a spaceman's helmet? What's your one?
Rainbow chart.
Okay.
Rainbow chart and tungsten cubes that I collected from stupid Bitcoiners that make bets about the Ethereum protocol.
Well, I think this takes us to our conclusion then. Tungsten cubes. In 2021, you won a cube from Adam Back over S2F. 2022, you won a tungsten cube from Christian Corollas. Mentioned
About the merge. Yeah.
What are we going to bet a cube on?
You and me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
How far do you think I can take my football team?
It's got to have an end date, though.
Do you we've won the league this year? Do you think we can win the league next year?
I don't have any edge when it comes to football, though. That's going to be extremely difficult for me. I only bet about things. You know, the point of the Tungsten Cube collection is that there are Bitcoiners who are so adamant about their beliefs in Bitcoin or in cryptocurrency and are so religious about the ideas that they make completely insane bets. For example, the one that I'm winning now about, that Bitcoiners have always been saying that, you're never going to be able to withdraw your Ether from proof of stake. It's happening now in a week.
So it'll happen in HEX in about a month.
Yeah. So those are the kinds of bets. Like when people are saying insane shit for tribalistic reasons, then I say, okay, how sure are you about that? And
What insane shit do I believe?
Do you think ordinals will be a big deal in a year? I don't know how you measure what a big deal is.
Yeah.
Do an over-under on the price.
How many wizards are there at the moment?
2,108.
In what time period?
Like how long
we
started to create them like sometime in February.
So 2,108 in basically a month.
I reckon just create a load.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a finite cap. 21.
21,000.
Never been. 2,121. That's the maximum amount.
And how many is so far?
2,107 or 8.
Oh shit! So I need mine soon.
Yeah, we're running out of.
How do I get that now? How do we do it literally now? I want one.
I mean, so there's the wizard school.
Oh, can you just fucking get me one?
Okay. Well, if you promise to wear it, though, you gotta wear it.
I will wear my wizard.
And how
do I own it? Like, how do I actually learn it?
We'll create you one, and then you have to download a wallet that is able to hold ordinals. So there's one called Sparrow that is very easy to use.
Yeah, I've got Sparrow. Okay.
Sparrow will send you a wizard.
So there's only about like 15 left or something. How many did you say? 2,108. So there's 13 left.
Yeah, like 14 or 13 left.
They could have gone during this interview.
No, I mean we're
very selective on those last
We're giving
few.
them to people that we think embodies the spirit of the original 2013 wizard. It's about people that use Bitcoin for fun and magic.
So we were thinking of making the wizard the mascot of our football team and getting someone dressed up literally as the original wizard and running down the football pitch during a game when we score a goal. Because I think that would be fucking funny.
That would be hilarious.
Now we should get a Real Bedford wizard.
Maybe that should be your wizard.
What, in a Real Bedford kit?
Yeah.
The mascot.
I think I want both of them.
The mascot should be a wizard.
Yeah, can I get the wizard in a Real Bedford shirt? And can I have my own wizard with the guitar? That's actually, is it upside down? It's upside down, isn't it?
I can't remember.
Yeah. I think we can make that happen.
Yeah, let's do that shit. I was a lot thinner in that picture. I always look back and my beard wasn't grey. All right, listen. Yeah. We need a bet.
But the thing that I do appreciate about you, Twitter, the thing that
Facebook.
The thing that I do appreciate about you, Peter, is that I've seen you go through like a lot of hate in Bitcoin. And I think, that you've pulled through and you're still loving what you're doing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So that's like, I think the amount of shit that you've gotten, a lot of people would have been like turned away, think about doing something else.
But most of the people who give me shit are mentally ill. Most of them, not all of them. A lot of them are mentally ill. And I got to live my dream, which is to buy my local football team, and we're about to win the league. It's the greatest thing ever. I absolutely love it. And then today, I've got Danny's become one of my best friends in the world. We get to work together all the time. We fly around the world together. My son is working for me today. Like, he's here helping make this. My family help with the football club. Like, Bitcoin's given me so much. I find it very difficult to find anything to be angry about.
You're a wizard, Peter.
I'm a wizard. All right. We still need a bet. What wizard bet can we make? Value?
Yeah.
Is there an open market for the value of the wizards?
Like if there's not yet.
All
They're
right.
not up for sale.
If I sold my wizard in 1 year, what do you think it'll be worth?
So the honoraries, the one we will make custom for you, are a bit harder to sell because who's gonna wear Peter's?
It's not about wearing it. They just want to own it. I mean, it's like owning a Dali self-portrait.
Yeah.
What do you think if 1 year today, I put in to get the diary open, Danny, what do you think my wizard will be worth?
I would say 10 Bitcoin.
Whoa.
In a year today?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take the under. I think that's insane. You're basically saying in a year, at the current price, it's $280,000. It could be merely $750,000. I'm taking the under. Tungsten cube. Look. Come on. Look. Take the bet.
The thing is when I bet...
Well, you can pick another amount. I might take the over.
The thing is when I bet these tungsten bets, I only bet them when I know that the other person is 100% wrong.
I think you're 100% wrong and insane to think that. So take the bet.
No, but it would have to be something where I'm like,
But if you don't take the
100%.
bet, everyone thinks you're a pussy right now. That's the point.
I mean, you've got plenty of tungsten cubes.
Look, no, because if I lose one, I lose all of my tungsten cubes. That's how it works. Like
Okay, then pick a different number. It's not worth 10 Bitcoin.
1 Bitcoin.
1 Bitcoin. Okay, I'll take over. I think you're insane. I definitely be worth more than 1 Bitcoin.
But I also think that it's going to be worth more.
Okay. So now you have no conviction.
You're not very good at making a bet.
Yeah, right now people just think you're just not good at betting. Look, I'm good at bets. I've won a half a Bitcoin off American Hodl twice. Danny's going to owe me 3 million Satoshis at the end of the season.
The way that the tungsten bet works is that when you say something absolutely insane, then I bet against you. And when you're wrong, which I know that you're going to be, I collect the tungsten cube. You can't tell me like, oh, what's the thing that you believe in? And then you just say, oh, I believe the opposite of that.
Okay, let's not bet a tungsten cube. Let's bet something else so you can keep your tungsten cubes. Okay? Okay. So do you want to go with the original? You think it's worth more than 10 Bitcoin? And I'll pick a different price.
Okay, let's say 5 Bitcoin.
5 Bitcoin.
5 Bitcoin.
Okay, so I think my thing will be worth less than 5 Bitcoin.
Okay.
If you lose, you have to give me your wizard.
Ooh.
I can't take it. I can't take it.
Make me the fucking bet. Come on, we have to have a bet now. Something.
No, I'm going to have to think about it.
If it's less than 5 Bitcoin, you have to give me 5 Bitcoin.
That doesn't sound like a good bet from my point of view, though.
Well, if it's over 5 Bitcoin, I have to give
Because
you over.
you sell a Bitcoin. What do I get if I win?
You get
Do I get the value of
credibility.
do I get the value of your wizard that you sell it for?
that's a good point. I just want a fucking tungsten cube. All right, look, we're not going to make a bet. This is silly. Eric Wall, thank you for coming to Bedford. Appreciate having you here. Let's next time come on and discuss ideas, things that you think can be better, worse, improved, and we'll talk it through. How does that sound, my brother?
Sounds good.
All right, man. Ciao.
Ciao.